Welcome to Moments with Marianne. This is your host, Marianne Pastana. And we're here today with special guest, Lecia Cornwall, who's here to share with us her new historical fiction, That Summer in Berlin. So welcome to the show, Lecia.
Thanks very much, Marianne. It's lovely to be here.
My goodness, what an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. I know this is flying off the shelves. People are loving it. What inspired you to write this book?
Well, I wanted to write something that wasn't quite World War I or World War II, but still took place in that era. And when I was doing the research for it, I realized the 1930s were absolutely fascinating. In particular, in Germany, they had the Olympics, which is a large theme of this book, and they had sort of risen from the ashes of World War I to become this cosmopolitan, amazing economic superpower, and a lot of people in the world really admired them. And I wanted to sort of explore that. And then I found out the fact that the British were sending their upper class debutantes over to Germany in the interwar period, right up until 1939. So they were sending these young girls over, and most of them said, "Oh, we were just too busy having fun and admiring the young men in their dashing uniforms to even notice anything about anti-Semitism or violence. So, it's all good for us." But I figure it was probably like going to university that first time when suddenly you're free of home and you just go wild for a while. That's what I figure it would be like to go as a debutante to Berlin in the 30s.
What a remarkable piece of history, because most people don't even know that. I mean, until I read your book, I had no idea that had happened. And I think a lot of times people look at that, go, "Well, how was that even possible? How was that even happening?" So what was the thread of history that kind of unwound for you so this story could create itself?
Well, I looked at that and I thought, well, what would it be like for these women to go over there? I mean, what if there's two sisters in the story that go over, and one is extremely suspicious of the Germans. She's there on a mission to sort of use her camera to take pictures of all the things that are going on behind the scenes, because they can't believe that the Olympic Games are just, this big celebration of peace and love and joy. And the Germans are behaving themselves, but there's something else going on. They're building up militarily, and they're raising armies. And the other sister is she's just dazzled by what she sees, and she accepts everything at face value and enjoys everything. So one sister is like, the camera never lies; it records what's really there. Whereas the younger sister is, you see what you look for and what you want to see. So it's a kind of a difference of opinion in what they're looking for in Germany. So I assume that probably a lot of young women who went over there felt like that.
I couldn't even imagine. I mean, that would have been, I think, both scary and horrifying and all that at the same time, even though as a young person, they're just like, "Hey, I'm free from home."
Yeah, but I mean, like, we know what ultimately happened, but at in those days, I mean, like, Germany was an exciting place to be. If there was no war that was guaranteed, I mean, a lot of people knew that it was coming, but there were people who were trying to keep it from happening, like Neville Chamberlain and when he went over and got Hitler's promise not to misbehave, which turned out to be for nothing. So they were very good liars.
So, what would you like to share with us about the book? I know we've dived into it a little bit. Why don't you share a little bit about it with us?
Okay, the story is about a young English woman, Vivian Alden, who gets an unexpected chance to travel to Germany in the summer of 1936 for the Berlin Olympics. And the Germans are on their very, very best behavior, and everything is lovely. There's no anti-Semitism or violence visible. And she's asked to sort of keep an eye on things, sort of to use her camera. She's an incredible photographer, and she's brave and she's smart, and she's the guest of an upper-class German family, which means that nobody's really going to question this camera-mad young tourist taking pictures of everything. And she's working with a young British reporter also on assignment for the same reason. And he's sort of trying to ingratiate himself with the Germans so that he gets access to more things. So they both have a very difficult job. And if either of them are caught or both of them are caught, then they could face very, very serious implications from the Nazis who are desperate to keep their secrets. And that's basically what the story is about.
So, how did you find this thread in history? How did it present itself to you?
It was, I thought the Olympics were very exciting. And I mean, like that was Jesse Owens' Olympics. And of course, he's probably the most famous Olympic athlete of all times. And his sort of coming up against the racism in Germany and still winning 4 medals and all the things that were going on. There were so many exciting things around the Olympics. The fact that they had the Winter Olympics, and a few days afterwards they invaded the Rhineland, which was forbidden by the treaty after World War I. And yet nobody stopped them. So I guess they were sort of encouraged to go ahead and continue with that. And after the Summer Olympics, they moved into the Sudetenland and nobody stopped them. So yeah, it was sort of a test, and it was a propaganda tool. And there was just so many things like that. They created rituals that we still use for the Olympics. Specifically to sort of connect themselves to the ancient Greeks and that whole festival. One of the things was the Olympic torch ritual. That was actually invented by the Nazis. And you can't imagine the Olympics now without that symbol.
Okay, so you just shocked me on that one. So, that's some pretty impressive research, and I think a lot of people are probably doing a double take, hearing that. What else did you find out in your research?
Well, I think the thing that sort of made me gasp the most was there were 2 things, but one of the things was the opening ceremonies were grand and glorious, and they were bigger and better than they'd ever been. There were more than 100,000 people in the stands, and they made speeches about peace and joy and the spirit of the games. And then in 1945, at the very end of the war, the same man who made some of those speeches, all these young men, Hitler Youth and teenagers and anybody who could sort of fight, was herded into the Olympic Stadium. And he was making a speech saying, in the spirit of the Olympics, you're going to go out there and you're going to defend our city against the Russians who were poised to invade. And they didn't have a choice. And a lot of those kids ended up dying. It was just such a perversion of the spirit of 1936. And that was shocking. And the other thing I found very interesting is Jesse Owens is running races and impressing the world in the stadium in Berlin, just miles away from the city. They were opening Sachsenhausen concentration camp. And it's just amazing. And people were thinking, oh, they're nice. They're not doing anything wrong. Look how much fun we're having. So yeah, that was pretty interesting.
That is just horrifying. They're trying to keep us just distracted with all the shiny things over there, so we're not paying attention to what's really happening. So as you look back at all the research that you've done for this book, is there something that you've either come across or discovered that has really stuck with you to this day?
I think one of my favorite things was learning about the technology for photography. I mean, it's a big theme in the book, and reading about some of the early female pioneers of photography and of filmmaking. The woman who made the movie about the Olympic Games was sort of handpicked by Hitler to do so. And she took a year before the Games started to invent all sorts of new techniques and new equipment to film the Games. And she was in a time when both Germany and the film industry were very anti-feminist. She had almost carte blanche. She was the most famous director in the world, arguably. So, but yes, after the war, she never apologized for being a Nazi, and she lived to over 100. So that was very fascinating. Technology played such a huge part in sort of the rise of the Second World War.
So what would you say is a major theme in your book?
Well, I use the theme, I sort of incorporate the King Arthur legend a little bit, well, quite a lot. Vivienne her background is her father is a war hero in World War I, and where she's raised on their family estate, there's a lake, And because she broke her leg when she was a child, and she has a limp, and she's very clumsy on land. So he teaches her to swim so that she will sort of be graceful in the water. And he tells her that that lake is where the original Lady of the Lake lived, and the one with King Arthur's sword. And he said, when the need is greatest, King Arthur will come back and defend the nation from anything, any threats. And she sort of, after he dies, she grows up believing that she is the guardian of this sword and of this legacy, and that she has to do everything she possibly can to sort of right the wrongs in the world. And she needs to sort of learn how to make her own way and decide what's right on her own without sort of following her father's example. And it was a lot of fun to sort of include the King Arthur myths, because I got to one of the characters, his name is Felix, and he's sort of Mordred, the guy who causes all the trouble in Camelot and then ultimately brings it down. And he's a bit of a trickster, and he's witty, and he's charming, and he always says the unexpected thing, and he was such fun to write. So that's one of the main themes in the book, I guess, is that sort of background of King Arthur.
Did you ever have the sense that as you were writing this book, the characters were writing themselves?
Yes, I love the fact that when you're deep in the writing, sometimes you'll be typing away and a character will say something or do something that, well, it's completely in character. It's unexpected for the writer, and it feels like magic has happened. It's the most incredible feeling. And you think, oh, where did that come from? That's one of the best feelings about being a writer.
Now, I know we've kind of touched on research. Was there a lot of research that you did for this book? Or what was that like?
It was fascinating. I love research, thankfully. So, but I feel that when you're writing a book in a new time period, and this was a new time period for me, you kind of have to explore everything about that era, like from what they ate, what they wore, what they drove, what the city would have looked like, what the how they would have spoken, what the camera model would be like. And even though all that research isn't going to end up in the book, it gives you enough of a grounding in that era that when the reader goes to read it, they can step right into that with you and feel like it's authentic.
What do you want people to take away from that summer in Berlin?
Well, the heroine is brave and bold, and she takes a chance to make the world a better place. And I hope that everyone who reads that will realize that they can make a difference in some small way in the world or in their own life or for someone else. And I hope that they take that sometime.
Well, we can all use some courage as we go through our day. Lecia, where can our listeners connect with you and be part of your community?
Well, the best place is to just drop by my website, which is just LeciaCornwall.com.
Well, Lecia, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
It was lovely to be here, Marianne. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Lecia. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, That Summer in Berlin. That Summer in Berlin's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And remember, support our indie bookstores. If you don't see it on the shelf there, just ask for them to order it. If you'd like to connect with Lecia and learn more, not just about this book, but all of her other books as well, visit LeciaCornwall.com for more information. Well, we're going to pause here for a quick moment, and we'll be right back after this message. I'd like to thank Jason Eastwood at Guitarfulness for sharing his inspiring music and talent with us. His music is known worldwide for cultivating atmospheres of harmony, inner peace, and clarity. Visit Jason's website at guitarfulness.com. Join his newsletter, be part of his community, and download his music. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary. A recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.